Hello, and welcome to this edition of People in Transition. I'm your host, Bob Durst. I've been hiring, firing, and mentoring executives, frontline employees, interns, and job seekers in companies around the world through a host of transitions, some difficult, but most very good. I work with people in Hong Kong, India, Australia, and across the United States. What sets them apart? A lot, but there's more they have in common. And one of those commonalities is transition is a part of life. This experience has given me a bird's eye view on a variety of trends, economies, industry disruptors, and transitions that are big and small. It also brought me into contact with the thought leaders and decision makers you need to meet, the people who can make the difference that matters to you right now. Imagine knowing exactly what to do next and how to know it's time to make your big change. The insight track you're going to access during our future episodes is better than a crystal ball. It's the exact information you need to take that next step. Whether you're a new grad applying for your first professional job, someone looking to transition your work experience into a promotion, launching your own company, or maybe even starting to plan your retirement, you're in transition, and this series is for you. We all know transition can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. And it's even fun when you have VIP access to the future you want. Are you tired of the uncertainty of being passed up? We'll share with you the tools and skills that can take your dreams to the front of the line. So, if change is on your horizon, or maybe just the thought of change, you won't want to miss this discussion. It could be the exact edge you need to turn transition into an amazing opportunity.
Neha Ratnakar, I am so excited about our being together on this episode of People in Transition. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Me too, Bob. The last time we met, it was a great conversation, and I can't wait to continue it.
Neha, what was it that you pictured yourself as a young child, what you were going to do when you grew up?
Thanks for asking me that, Bob. I love that question because I had very weird ideas about what I wanted to become when I was a kid. When I was 4 or 5 years old, I used to want to become a postwoman or a postman, where they would carry bags and bags full of letters and packages and gifts. And I used to think, wow, how fascinating. They get so many letters and boxes. What I did not realize, obviously, back then was that none of those letters or boxes were for them. They had to give them away, never being able to see what was inside. So I let go of that dream when I realized that. And then my second love was being a librarian. I used to think, wow, what a dream life. You get to spend 8, 9, 10 hours in a library every day, surrounded by all the books in the world, and you can read anything, anytime without having to pay for them. But of course, I then realized that librarians never have enough time to actually sit down and read the books. They have to spend all their time stacking and numbering and organizing those books and making sure everybody's quiet in the library. So I had to let go of that dream too. But strangely enough, I didn't want to become an astronaut or prime minister when I was young. These were two of my favorite professions back then.
And Neha, what were the transition moments that you have gone through to get you from that picture of yourself as a postwoman or a librarian to where you're at today?
Wow, Bob, that's an excellent question. It makes me think back to a time when I was in school. I was in 11th grade and I was asked to talk about one of the topics. I think it was computer science or something, and about a language that we were learning back then, C++ it was. And I had to explain one concept from that book that we were reading on the computer language. And I stood in front of the room and I felt so energized. I was facing 30 of my other classmates who obviously I'd known all my life, but the kind of energy I felt in front of the room, the kind of passion I felt when I was talking about that topic, a topic I had mastered myself, I understood really well. I knew that I was going to enjoy helping other people learn. And that's what started me on the journey of being a talent development professional.
Neha, I've read your book, Back on Your Feet. Maybe you can give our listeners just a quick synopsis of what this book is all about.
Sure, Bob. My book, Back on Your Feet, it came out in March, and it's been getting a lot of love and great response from the readers. This book is something that I did not think I would ever write. This was something that came out of the pandemic, like many other good things. But the book is focused on career returnees, people who have taken a break from their careers for various reasons. It could be childbirth, it could be caring for a family member, sometimes it could be because of your own recovery from an accident or any other problem. But the things that people face when they come back after a gap can be very debilitating for people. There's still a lot of maturity that's needed from the companies who want resumes to be seamless. They don't want to see any gaps, any places where people haven't been working or have been working on something else that is unrelated to their work. And so this book helps them get their plan straight, understand their own priorities, understand their own values, reevaluate what's important for them, and create a plan of action for themselves. So if you are in a different career stage, the plan that comes out of the book for you will be completely different from what it would be for a 30-something mother who's taken 5 years break after having a kid. So the plan of action will be very different based on what your realities are. And this book is not just me giving you a lot of knowledge or preaching about what you need to do. It is also peppered with a lot of career restart stories from different people in different walks of life, from different professionals, how they've been able to pivot or completely reshape their careers after taking a break.
Neha, in the book, you talk about the 3 traps that women may have fallen into. What are those traps and what do they mean to someone that is potentially coming back into the workforce?
You know what? When I started off writing this book, I had 7 or 8 different traps, but I realized it was becoming too long. So now I'm left with these 3, which finally made it to the book. One of the traps, which I feel very, very strongly about, is I need to reskill trap. Many people think that if they've taken a break or if they need to pivot their careers, they need to go back to the college. They need to go back to the drawing board, need to learn everything from scratch, need to get a degree or a certificate or complete X number of courses, read so many books to be actually able to do that job. But then the question I asked them is, when we got our first job, my first internship, if I remember, whatever I'd learned in my college was not even 30% useful to what I was going to be doing at the workplace. I had to learn everything on the job from my peers, from my superiors, from my friends, sometimes Googling, sometimes on YouTube on how to do a particular task, how to do it well, by making mistakes and continue to putting in the effort to get better at it. So what we learn to do in most of the jobs is by actually doing it, not by reading or recertifying and rereading the books that we have already read. So that's one trap that I always tell people to stay clear of. You don't need to reskill every time. Sometimes just start doing it by experimenting on the job. You'll get better. Just don't be afraid of starting at a level lower than you are, because sometimes taking a break does put you out of touch in many of the fields. So that's something that we need to be aware of, and you don't need to start Googling the first certificate or the first degree that will help you get that job. It's not needed. The other 2 traps that I talk about in the book are the either or trap, where you think, oh, you either have to have a holiday in Rome or you can't go on a holiday at all. There are lots of in-between things. You can have a quick getaway in the nearby city or a staycation in your own city. And we think about our careers in a similar way. Sometimes we think, oh, if I can't get the very next level of job that I had 5 years ago before I took a break, it's no good. Or I have to be an absolute stay-at-home mother, making sure my kids get organic food all the time, or be a complete stone-hearted corporate person where I don't have time for family or my social life or anything at all. Life is not that black and white. It's not that either or. There are always ways in between where you can have best of both the worlds, or at least good of both the worlds, if not best of everything. And the other trap that I talk about is my kids need me. People think that if they are going on a job, especially young mothers who've taken a break, they think if they are staying away on work-related meetings or travel, they are ignoring their kids, or their kids are not getting what they need from their mothers. And that's not true, because you'll still be there for the kid. If you're a more fulfilled mother, if you're a more fulfilled parent, you'll be able to give better to your kids. You'll be able to be around as a more happy and contributing family member than just being a servant sometimes to the kids, who many times mothers fall into this trap where their kids are completely dependent on them and they have to fulfill every whim and fancy of their kid. So these are a few traps I talk about.
You talk about, and I love this line, if you self-reject and don't even try, your failure rate is 100%. What does that don't self-reject mean?
I think self-rejecting is something that we all do, whether we know it or we don't. So many times we have these amazing ideas while we're in a shower or cooking or just driving around. We think, wow, this could make like the best, next best unicorn, or it could be the next best business idea. And then we let it go. We forget about it. We don't even talk about it or get other people's inputs on that. We keep rejecting ourselves more than we know. I remember when I was in Bangkok and I applied for a position of events coordinator. I wasn't even 20% qualified for that position. I was so bored at home, Bob, that I didn't even think twice at that point. I was like, how is it going to matter if I get rejected from this job? I know I don't qualify, but let me try. So I applied for it and I was not even 20% qualified, and yet I got the job. So you never know how the universe will respond if you put yourself out there. If you don't reject yourself first, say, okay, this is something that looks interesting. Let me try my hands at it. And if it happens, great. And if it doesn't happen, you move on to your next mistake, your next experiment, your next idea. But give it a try first. Let the other people reject you. Let the companies reject you or the HR reject you. You don't reject yourself. Be kind to yourself. You should be your biggest cheerleader. Let other people do the criticizing.
Neha, you talk about the 10 steps to your LinkedIn revamp. Pick a couple of those that you think are most important and describe how we can make that LinkedIn site of ours really help sell us.
Thanks for asking me that, Bob, because LinkedIn profile is your top tool out there when you go out looking for a job. And I know that 10 step could be too long for right now, but the first couple of things that come to my mind are the images, your own image and the background pictures. That is such a prime property on your LinkedIn profile. And people forget to use their background pictures. It always boring blue background on many people's profiles. So use that well. Use that to showcase your portfolio, your industry knowledge, whatever you stand for. Use that background picture and your own image. One thing I've also noticed in people's images is that they might be dressed well, but is it contemporary? We forget to ask how we look in that picture. My recommendation that I talk about in the book is ask the next generation. Ask your kids, ask your nephews, nieces, your younger cousins how you look, to make sure that you don't look dated, that you're not still wearing the same business suit that you wore 20 years ago to your graduation. So these are the two pictures that we really need to pay attention to. And then the tagline. Tagline has to be razor sharp, whether it's an advertisement tagline or it's your LinkedIn profile. And I've seen people write random stuff in it. People write things like dreamers and adventurer and things like that. I've also seen one-liners from movies in people's LinkedIn profiles. I read somewhere, it was one of the popular songs. The tagline said, "And I'm a champion and you're going to hear me roar." I think it was a Taylor Swift song or somebody. And I was like, what is that doing in a tagline? It has to be razor sharp. None of the recruiters or your future bosses are looking for somebody who can roar or somebody who's a dreamer or an achiever. They're looking for a UX developer, or they're looking for a manufacturing expert. They're looking for a business development expert. Write that. Keep it really, really focused when you start off. That's your first impression that you're making.
Now, you talk about mistakes, and you describe the two types of mistakes that someone can make in the job search process. Can you describe them to us?
Sure. I do talk a lot about mistakes. In fact, Bob, I start my book talking about my mistakes and the places where I've failed in life and what they have taught me. And when I support the mistakes, I always say, as far as you're not hurting yourself or anyone else, you should just do what comes to your mind. If you want to try a new business idea, if you want to apply for a job, just do it. When you make these mistakes, there are only two things that can happen, right? You can either win some or you learn some. You'll either make it big, you'll be successful, or you learn something out of it. If not immediately, eventually it'll come to you about what you learned from that particular point in your life, or what you were doing and how it helped you bounce back in your life. The two types of mistake that I talk about in the book are no action, doing absolutely nothing, which many of us do. We are like career sleepwalking. It's actually a term that LinkedIn came up with, where we just keep blindly following the societal norms about careers or our lives or education, or we are in a dead-end job and we just keep doing the 9 to 5 every day without really thinking where we want to be, how our work aligns with our values, what our future life looks like if we keep doing that for next 10 years. So no action is one type of mistake, and the other is actions that do not yield the best results. And I'm a big supporter of the second type of mistake, where the actions do not necessarily give you the best results. But it doesn't matter. It's sometimes the fun of doing it. Sometimes it makes for a great story when you grow old and you can tell people, hey, you know what? I tried improv on a big stage in Singapore and I bombed so badly. It makes for a great story. But if you don't make any mistakes, no magic is going to happen. You'll just be in a dead end place. You'll keep doing the same rigmarole year after year after year, or not doing anything. I've met many mothers who spend their younger years and midlife years taking care of the family, their kids, and everybody around them except for themselves. And then they are depressed later in life, or they are facing health challenges because they failed to take care of themselves. And that's what I want people to stay away from. Don't make that mistake. Nobody is going to remember your sacrifices. You deserve that attention for yourself as well. And you need to take action to make things better in your own life. So making those mistakes, trying out new things, experimenting in life is something I think everybody should be doing.
Neha, you have a great section in here. You talk about words have power. So you decided to change the narrative as it relates to introductions, whether it's by yourself or a friend or partner introducing you. And you said that you did 3 things to change the narrative of those introductions. Talk to us about that.
Sure, Bob. So 3 types of intros that I talk about in the book are my own introduction about myself. Second is how my partner was introducing me. And the third are the passive introductions online. The first was my own introduction. And I saw that once I became a mother, I started every line with, of course, I would tell my name in my introduction, but then the second line would be about my daughter saying, hey, I'm the mother of that. As if in those 30 years, that was my only achievement in life. And I stopped doing that. I said more about myself. Depending on the context, where I was, who I was talking to, I would talk about my interests. I would talk about my business. I would talk about my past life, my country, whatever. But I said something more about my own introduction, about my own personality, something that actually added to the conversation. The second was how my partner was introducing me. And it could be a partner or a friend who's accompanying you to a social event, to a party, even just outside. And they end up introducing you to somebody. Sometimes they fall into the pattern of saying, hey, this is Neha, she's my wife. But you need to be more mindful about that. I was first not very mindful about it, and my husband would blindly just introduce me as his wife, as if that was the only thing I was in life. But then when I had a conversation with him, he checked himself. He changed his story. He gave me more credit for the work that I had done and my aspirations and my dreams. And that really, really helped me increase my network, have bigger, better conversations with the people that I was meeting. And the third one is your presence online. Whether you like it or not, no matter who you're meeting or you are going to meet, will look you up online. It's inescapable now. And I actually immediately get suspicious if I'm going to meet somebody and I cannot find them online at all. So your passive introduction that is always there on your LinkedIn profile or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, wherever you are, whatever it says about you is important. So if you're going to be restarting your career, or if you're in a transition looking for a better opportunity or pivoting in your career, please remember that your presence is there 24/7 for your future bosses or hiring managers to look at, and make sure that is right. Make sure that talks about things that you want them to know about you. Nobody goes online looking for you, wanting to find something bad. They want to like you, these hiring managers. They want to quickly hire somebody who's great at the position and move on. So give them something they like. Put something out there that attracts people, that gets people interested in who you are, your experience, and your capabilities. So these are the type of introductions I think one needs to manage to be able to have a better network, better conversations, and better next steps in life.
Neha, we've talked about a career portfolio. So what is that, and what do you need to do to create that career portfolio?
Career portfolio sounds like such a fancy word for something very simple, actually. So we have our resumes, of course, and then we have our portfolios if we are designers or models or producers or somebody in creative fields. But the fact this portfolio doesn't have to be only for creative people. Anybody who's in any type of job can have a career portfolio. And LinkedIn actually gives you a very good way of showcasing whatever you've done and to introduce your work in the past. In the book, I talk about some 8-10 different ways in which you can build your career portfolio. But essentially, your career portfolio is where you can show your knowledge or show off what skills you've built and what you can do about it. Show that you're a thought leader, that you have actually put in your own thoughts from what you hear, what you read, and you need to have conversations around it. The different ways of building your career portfolio, even if you're a complete newbie in professional world, or you've taken a long 10-year sabbatical, or you're completely pivoting from being MSc mathematics to a makeup artist. That's one story from my book. But when you're creating something like that, you can start learning. There are lots of courses out there which are free for you to learn from. There are lots of books out there that you can read. You can create infographics, PowerPoints, you can create relevant decks and put them on your social media. And if you populate your social media or your LinkedIn profile or your website, if you want to build it, if you populate all that on your website or your profile, it'll be a great portfolio to showcase your work. Then you don't need to have that first or second round with a junior HR person to show what you can do. Your work will speak for itself. Have it out there that people can easily find and get impressed even before they meet you. So that's the career portfolio I talk about.
Let's talk about the gig economy and how this might be a path for someone, especially during these COVID times.
Oh my God, Bob. COVID has really helped gig economy people, I think, because many people have now been able to work from anywhere. They've worked remotely and they know they don't need to be bogged down by the administrative problems of a company. To be honest, I only have freelancing experience to a certain extent, but I've been a huge consumer of this economy. I've used freelancers for so many things I can think of. I've used logo designers, social media experts, website design. My book cover was designed by a freelancer, animation, UX, UI experts making brochures, t-shirt design. You think it, and I've tried to look for a freelancer for these jobs. And I have huge respect for these people. They have a lot of potential where they don't need to prove anything to a company or a future boss through rounds and rounds of interviews. And they can just focus on what they're really good at and keep improving their craft, keep becoming better and better at it. So I think gig economy can open doors for people around the world. They don't have to be restricted to their geographical area, and they could be earning top dollars based on how good they are and how much work and efforts they've put into it. So I think gig economy is huge and it's here to stay. And I think more and more people should experiment with it to build that career portfolio. 1, 2, to get really better at what they want to do in life.
Neha, I'm a real big believer in terms of the importance of giving back to our community, to our profession, to others. And you talk about the importance of strategic volunteering. Talk to me about what that means.
Sure. Strategic volunteering is a term that I heard from one of the career coaches I had the opportunity of knowing back in New Jersey. And I love that idea. You know what volunteering is, working without any pay. But then if you're strategic about it, challenge people to think about 2 things when they're volunteering, if they want to do it strategically. The first question they need to ask, is this a cause that they believe in? And the second question they need to ask is the position on offer in line with their own career goals? And these are 2 things. If these 2 questions are a yes for you, then that is a strategic position for you to volunteer in. Many people make a mistake of picking any voluntary position that comes their way when they want to start working. They don't really look at the organization well. They don't think about what the cause that organization supports. They think, oh, this organization wants somebody for website designing, but they don't really look at whether it's a topic that they feel passionately about. Because remember, it's a voluntary position. You're not going to be paid for it. Until and unless you feel passionately about the cause, the work that you'll be supporting, you wouldn't be able to put your heart and mind and soul into it. So it has to be a cause that you believe in. And if that position is going to help you be on the right track for your career goals, don't take a website designing volunteer position if your real love is, training or talent development. Be more focused. Keep projecting. There are lots of organizations looking for volunteers around the world. Go for the one that works best for you, that aligns with your career goals, and which support the causes that you believe in.
You talk in your book about returnships. What does that mean, and how does a person use that in their search process?
So returnships, the first time I heard the name, it sounded like a spaceship that was probably returning back to its planet, which is not very far from the truth. There's another term that I've heard recently. It's called minterns, which is a midlife career internships. And returnships or minternships are just that. When you want to return to active career, or if you want to pivot, if you want to refocus your energies or transition into a different type of career, these are great opportunities for people. Now, we know ex-service people do it all the time. After active duty, many of them have to look for positions where their combat or war experience is absolutely non-transferable. The only difference is ex-army people are very highly respected for their sacrifice that they make for the countries, which we should be very thankful for them. But we need the same type of respect for people who take a career break to take care of their, dying parents, or you need to take a break for the next generation of kids. And these people deserve the same respect. I'm glad lots of global companies are waking up to that fact that career gaps are no more a taboo. Companies like SAP, Tata, Target, Amazon, Accenture have their own career restart programs or pivot programs or minternships where people can experiment. They can decide at 40, 45, 50 if something is not right and they want to change their career line. Or after taking a long break, people want to restart and they're looking for an internship where they can try a few things and then decide which way they want to go. So these returnships are an excellent place to start for people in transition or people who are taking a break to reevaluate what's important and how they can really contribute to organizations.
Neha, we've talked before about people looking for their next great job opportunity needs to get comfortable with asking for help. What did you mean by that?
So, Bob, I think sometimes we don't get help because we don't ask for it. And that's a mistake I think all of us can avoid. If we ask for help, there are, again, self-reject. If you don't put yourself out there, chances that you'll fail is 100%, right? Nobody's going to come home and give you a job. Same thing goes for help. If you don't ask your connections, your friends, your ex-colleagues, your spouses for help to assist you in your job search, don't share your dreams at all, your aspirations at all, they're not going to one fine day wake up and realize that you're looking for a job or you're looking for a transition in your career. You have to tell people, you have to talk about your own dreams and ask for help. People think asking for help is akin to begging. No, it's not. It's a give and take process. You help people in your life and people help you in return. And there's nothing to be ashamed of asking for help in introductions, asking for help to take a look at your resume in case if you need another pair of eyes to make sure you've written down everything correctly. There's no harm in asking for a friend or a neighbor to do a mock interview with you if you're stressed about one of your interviews and you don't know which way the questions are going to go. There's no harm in that. Ask. What's the worst that the other person can do? All they can do is say no. They'll probably do it politely if they're your friend or a neighbor or a partner. But that's the worst that'll happen. They say, oh, I don't have time today. Let's try this again next week or something like that. Or they might burn the bridge, but that will happen in so rare cases. Just ask for help. There are people out there who will happily help you if you ask for it.
Neha, if you were coaching someone to help them do a better job at networking, what's the one or two things that you would tell them to do to make their networking experience a better one?
I love talking about networking, Bob. You have asked me the wrong question because I'll go on and on. I'll try to keep it short though. So there are a couple of things that I would recommend them. One is I read this technique by a very famous author, and it talks about a 5-minute favor. This is very useful for people who are introverts. You don't have to go out and meet your neighbors or go to social hangouts or go to networking events to network. You can do it easily from the quiet and peace of your house. Go on a social media network of your choice and start connecting with people. Do a 5-minute favor every day. A 5-minute favor can look as simple as commenting on somebody's post for better reach, complimenting somebody on their work, buying somebody's book, buying a ticket for their event, supporting somebody's spouse or kids on their career move, etc. Just doing these few things every day, giving 5 to 10 minutes every day, these things will add up. It'll have a big impact over a long period of time. So that's one thing I always recommend in terms of networking for people who are introverts. The second idea I always recommend to people who want to come back to active workforce is reconnect with your old colleagues or friends. And this will help you because you're not making fresh, cold connections, right? You're not selling yourself or going to a completely new networking event and introducing yourself to strangers. You're just reconnecting to people you've known your entire life or used to know very well. But reconnecting with your old pals, your colleagues, will do 3 things for you. One, just talking to them will remind you what an awesome person you were, at least at the job that you once held. Then 2, if they really liked you as a colleague or a friend or a person, then they would keep an eye out on your behalf. They'll see what's around them, any opportunities that they come across, they'll probably connect you. You're immediately doubling the number of eyes that are looking for a job for you. And number three, reconnecting with people from your past is going to introduce you to the new things in your profession. If you've been away from work for a few years, things might have changed tremendously. New technologies, new ideas, new professions, new industries might have cropped up in the same space. And just reconnecting with these old friends can reconnect you to those new ideas or reintroduce you to the new things in the industry. So just reconnecting with old friends could be a great place to start when networking.
Are there any books or other resources that you would recommend to someone who's in the middle of a job search?
Sure. Of course, my book. I'm being very selfish here. But apart from that, when I was researching for the books that put me on track for my book, I came across a lot of other business books which were not really relevant to career restarters, but gave a lot of great food for thought. One book that I have always loved, is 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And it talks about not only professionals, but also about freelancers and entrepreneurs and how you can really use your time efficiently, how you can improve your career chances. It gives you simple ideas and techniques to make sure you are on the right track and you're evaluating what you like in life and you continue working towards that. So that's one book that I highly recommend. And there are a couple of podcasts that I really like. The first one is called Pivot by Jenny Blake. And I love her take on career transitions and career restarts. And if you read my book, there are a couple of ideas I've been inspired by to create some frameworks for people to pivot their own lives. And the second podcast that I've always listened to is called 321 I Relaunch. And it's a very long-standing podcast. They're on their episode number 240. And it is all about relaunching your careers. If you've taken a break or if you've taken a sabbatical, you're transitioning, how do you relaunch? Every episode features a story. And you'll either find something super relatable to your own life situation, or you'll find something so different from what you're experiencing, and that could really open your eyes. So these are the two podcasts I really recommend your listeners to listen to.
Yeah, if our listeners take away 3 things from our discussion today, what are the 3 things that you want them to remember?
That's an excellent question, Rob. The 3 things, if I could say, were the crux of our conversation today. The first one was don't self-reject. Don't reject yourself. There are enough people who do it. You stay true to yourself. The second thing I would say is start somewhere. Start anywhere. Don't let the fear of mistakes keep you from trying something new. Even if it's a small step, it's a new idea that you want to implement in your work or a small change that you're doing in your careers, your job search process, do it. Start anywhere. Keep making those small changes. It has an incremental impact on your success. And the third is never stop connecting. I've met people who are always very sweet, always nice, very helpful when they are looking for a job. But when they find a job, they're successful in their lives, they don't even respond to your messages. So don't be that person and just be a genuine connector. Connect with people, help them out, and leave it at that. It'll come back tenfold to you. Be a good connector. You don't have to pretend to be a networker or anything like that. Just be genuine and connect people.
Neha Ratnakar, thank you so much for all of your thoughts, all of your wisdom, the experiences that you have lived yourself and that you've heard from others. I know that all of my listeners will benefit from this episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bob. It was such a pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. We're working in unprecedented times as the world responds to the recent COVID-19 crisis. The fact is that even those who are not in transition understand it could be right around the corner, next month or a year from now. The purpose of these episodes are to give listeners support and the critical tools to adjust with the winds, wherever they come. I'll continue to introduce you to guests who have successfully, perhaps gracefully or without too many battle scars, survived their own obstacle courses, and can share useful information on how to steady your ship or your world in this uncertainty. If today's message was helpful to you, please share it on social media. If you have any questions or podcast ideas for future conversations, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I appreciate your time you're investing in sharing these important conversations with me, my guests, and others who are going through life transition. Transitions between jobs, life stages, new entrepreneurial ventures, or whatever life brings. Change is constant. The more prepared you are for it, the better and easier the change will occur. Thank you again. This is your host, Bob Gerst. See you at our next episode of People in Transition.